Goeiemorgen, good morning, Sani Bunani, bonjour, como está? Making a chain stitch. The chain stitch is one of the simplest stitches there is to make, and while there are really very few crochet projects that only ever uses a chain stitch, likewise there are very few projects that you can make without using any chain stitches at all. So, what does a chain stitch look like? In learning to make a chain stitch, you'll also learn another term that you will hear very often while crocheting. It's called yarn over. Yarn over can either mean physically moving the yarn with your finger away around the crochet hook, or it could mean taking the hook, move the hook to go around the yarn, and then when you slide the hook down, then the crook part of the hook will catch the yarn underneath in the little gap so it can pull it. Okay, yarn over, meaning the hook and the yarn cross each other, the yarn is caught in the little hook, and for a chain stitch you simply then pull it through that little gap of the slip knot, pull it through there. First chain stitch is made. Same thing again. Yarn over, the yarn hooks around the crook of the hook and pulls through, and you get a chain stitch. You can see where its name comes from because it forms these little chains. Again, yarn over and pull it through the loop on your hook. So this is called the loop on the hook. And when you yarn over and you pull the yarn and the hook with it, or the hook and the yarn with it, whichever way around, through that little gap, if you pull the hook through that little gap, so there's the working yarn going around the hook all the way down to the base of the stitch, and there is the current loop on the hook going around the hook, and if I pull it around here you can just see the loop it makes. And then there is the other side of it. There you can see. Around the hook, making the loop. And your crochet hook will grab the yarn and pull it through that loop. Let's try to do that again.
Again.
Yarn around the hook. There's the loop on your hook. Can you see both legs? Yes, you can. You pull the working yarn through that loop, and it makes the new stitch. The one that was the working yarn just now is the new stitch on the hook. From a bit further, you can see the whole process hopefully. Okay, yarn around the hook. So the hook goes around the working yarn, pull it through the loop, and that is a chain stitch. You can see that every chain stitch has this two little loops. There's the one that side and one that side. That makes one stitch, two stitch. If we start from the beginning, this is the slip knot. This here is the first chain, the first stitch that we made. There is the second stitch that we've made. There is the third stitch that we've made. And that is how you count your stitches in crochet. Every little V that is formed by pulling the yarn through the loop on the hook, it makes a new V. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then there is still a loop on the hook. One of the challenges new crocheters face with crocheting is keeping the tension steady. With a chain stitch, it's also very easy to see that. If the loop is too big and you make a new stitch, it will be visible because the V made by these will not be of the same size. And in the end, when you finish with the project, it will still be visible and kind of looks sloppy. It also affects the size of the finished project. In contrast, if this is pulled too tight and this yarn here is also too tight and you pull it through, first off, you're going to have a hard time getting the hook through that loop. And if you keep it too tight after that, oh my goodness. You can see that the stitches are not the same size. There's the regular ones, there's the big one with a hole through the middle, and there's the really small tight ones. If the stitches are too tight, it will also be more difficult later to get the hook back through them and again through them with a different piece of yarn. The good thing about crochet, one of the many, is you just pull on the working end of the yarn. See the working end? You just pull and it only takes out one stitch at a time. So if you have noticed that there's a problem spot somewhere, you can just pull, 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 and the moment you've reached the place where things started going wrong, tighten the tension to regular levels, not too tight, not too loose, and keep going. Yarn around hook, pull the hook through the loop on the hook. The other good part is when you need to stop working for a while, you can simply lengthen this loop that is on the hook, pulling it out far away so that it doesn't accidentally become undone. Put down your crochet work, go have your coffee, and when you come back, simply put the hook back, tighten this again, and keep on working. Chain stitches. In some projects you may hear people referring to the back bumps. So here's the anatomy of a chain stitch. That would be called the front loop. That is simply the loop that is closest to you, therefore front loop. The one that is furthest from you is called the back loop. And if you turn it around so that instead of seeing all these nice little V's, that looks a bit like a plait, if you turn it around, then there are these little bumps where the one stitch has hooked through the other one. Let's try again. There's the chains. If you turn them around, there are these little ridges or bumps in the back. But like your backbone, it has these little funny knobs that you can feel. Front of the chain stitches with the front loop closest to you, the back loop further away from you. Turn it over, and those ridges there are the back loops. And that is how you make a chain stitch. Yarn around the hook, pull it through, yarn around the hook, and pull it through the loop on the hook. And the yarn becomes the new loop on the hook. Yarn around the hook, pull it through, and that is one stitch, and the yarn that you just pulled becomes the new loop on the hook. Yarn around the hook, pull it through the loop currently on the hook, and that yarn becomes the new loop on the hook. That's another stitch. Yarn around the hook, pull it through,